All right. Well, um, the weather was very good at Hamvention, but there was a couple of possibilities of having inclement weather, which would be perfectly expected. So Glenn and I were thinking of doing a side trip down to the Voice of America Museum of Broadcasting. That's located about 25 miles north of Cincinnati. And that translated into about a 35 or 40-minute drive from Hamvention. And surprisingly, we seem to make better time getting back up to our hotel, which was in Huber Heights, which was north of Dayton there. I don't know if that was because of the interstate or if that was because of the scintillating conversation and podcasts that we enjoyed. But I highly recommend that if you have an interest in radio history or just want to see some awesome equipment. The voice. Before I start, I'll give you a little background. I'm sure most of you already know this. Voice of America was kind of formed in the 1940s. I think 1944 or so, 46. I think it went on the air as a means to provide a source of news to initially Germany, to counteract some of the broadcasting that the Reich was putting out to their citizens in the world, and they formed a series of transmitting stations here in the United States, and also some relay stations in North Africa and other locations. The site that we visited was called the Bethany Relay Station, and that's located, like I say, about 25 miles or so from Cincinnati. Thing after I would tell you right now, if you want to go there, and I would recommend you do if you have some time, be sure to use the GPS address and not the address of the museum itself. We were told this, I was told this, and they had a great booth at Hamvention. And for some reason, when we pulled out the sheet of paper, the only address I saw was the actual address. And if you go there, that'll get you in the area there, but that will leave you pulling into a dead end chain fence, which is the park that is becoming there. So, do not fret if you get there and you're thinking that you're looking into an open field. Check the address. You can actually see the tower and the building from that location. So anyway, the Bethany station went on the air in 1944, 46, I think. I will have to fact check that later. But anyhow, it was an impressive outlet here. I'm going to try to get rid of the screen here so I can see my notes instead of making up facts. There we go. Okay. So they had an impressive station, and this actually was a backup station. They had stations in Massachusetts and in Long Island, New York, and I believe in New Jersey, and there may have been another one. But they built this particular station in Ohio to act as a backup in case the other stations were attacked by submarines or other sort of weapons of war during World War II. It was very interesting. A little bit of a background. There's a person called Pearl Crosley, and if you've heard me, you may recognize the name Crosley. It's I thought, oh yeah, he used to make radios. He did a lot more than that. He was operating a station in Cincinnati that was running 500,000 watts, a half a megawatt, on the AM broadcast band. His plan was to have a station that would cover the entire United States, and that accomplishment got the attention of the government, who then worked with him to come up with a series of transmitters and antennas to be able to broadcast around the world on the short wave bands. Here is a picture inside of the museum. Um, in the center, you can see, where Ohio is. That's the green dot, and you can see where the lines are drawing to where their antennas were beaming to. That station, Bethany station, had quite an antenna array. They had 8 rhombic antennas and 2 curtain array antennas that were able to be focused to different parts of the country. One of the curtain arrays was pointed directly into Europe and in Germany in particular, and the other array was pointing down into northern Africa. And the purpose of that was going to be a relay point so that the stations in northern Africa then could beam up into the Iron Curtain during the Cold War a little bit later on. This is a picture of a photograph of the site as it existed. It had to be, it's probably pretty old. It was pre-1990-ish or so, because that is when they switched from getting their feeds from Washington via the telephone lines to satellite. It's important that this Voice of America transmitters, they did not originate any of the programming. They just took the signals coming from their studios and then broadcast them on their system. You get an idea of the scale of this operation, of how that building there, which is I think it's 30,000 square feet or more, is as opposed to the rest of the area. You can see the big towers, which are forming the curtain antennas. And also, if you look really closely, you'll see the rhombics that were put up into that area. Interesting, Crosley and his engineers solved a problem with efficiency of feeding a rhombic. It was considered it was not a high efficiency antenna, and they actually had something called a feedback method in there that increased the efficiency drastically, and it was so an important of a discovery that it was considered top secret for a long time. Inside the museum, because they have a nice little display here that kind of gives you an idea of the scale of the site. You'll see that this square represents a 1 mile by 1 mile. That was the size of their location. And actually, the antennas were the site was decommissioned in 1994, I believe, and then the antennas were dismantled over a number the next few years there. As Glenn and I were weeping as we were watching the introductory video and seeing those towers coming down. This now has become, a lot of this area now has become a park for recreation. And in fact, if you look to the right of this box and about the center, that's where you'll be delivered if you use the address of the VOA and not the GPS address. You use the GPS address, you come up the road and in the main area. But it was quite an impressive installation that they had there in the time. They have a lot of information that is interesting to the general public, and particularly interesting if you're a radio amateur. In fact, the people that served as our tour guides especially enjoy having radio amateurs visit them, and sometimes take you on a part of the museum that the regular people that visit may not appreciate. Here's an example of showing the different types of antennas, with a vertical, a dipole, a yagi, a rhombic, and a curtain. And they kind of show you the different types of antennas and what their characteristics were. This is the control room of Voice of America in Bethany. Um, Actually, we had another shot of Glenn in the commander's chair there, rotating something. But this is one of the control rooms there. At its peak, they had three 250,000 watt transmitters made initially from Crosley. Actually, it was even a higher powered one, the original Crosley ones. But they had three 250 kilowatt Collins transmitters, and they also were operating three 375 kilowatt BBC transmitters, and then just for grin's sake, they had two 50 kilowatt stations that they could use as well. And their antenna switch, I'll show you a little later, was capable of actually switching all of this stuff off and be able to connect the proper transmitter to the proper antenna depending upon what they needed to do. Interesting fact, this station drew so much power, and you'll get a little bit of an idea in here. And if I recall correctly, I think it was saying that they had enough power that they could probably power a city of 15,000. But there was so much energy being used and so much heat generated that the temperature on that floor was around 100 degrees until they were, and that was even with some of their early cooling efforts in there. So it was pumping some serious power. This is a block diagram of one of those 250 kilowatt Collins transmitters in there. And I should have probably actually created a better picture so that you could zoom in on it. But there's the RF driver, the driver for that. Well, they got a couple of them. The first one is a 4CX 350. But then the RF main driver is a 4CX 3000, driving a couple of very, very powerful and huge tubes, which are on display there. And actually, that's one of the things, if you go behind the scenes, you'll actually get to see that. This is a block diagram of the Collins transmitter. And some of the bellens and feed lines and all of this stuff you can see. Obviously, none of it is in operation now, but you can see how it is. It's the people that maintain the museum have done an outstanding job of keeping things maintained and educational. And the thing that I came away from there is just the magnitude of the amount of energy that is used and the amount of RF that was able to be produced. And a lot of this stuff, again, came back from the 1940s. Obviously, this is more modern equipment, but even then, their first transmitters were operating in the 500 megawatt range. Here is one of the Collins transmitters. They had three there. Our guide over there was saying, come behind here. I'll show you some really cool stuff. And we were able to see the different components of the transmitter chain and the cooling system, as well as the feed lines and matching systems. And again, something at this scale is just really, you really have to see to fully appreciate. This is the transformers that power the filaments of the tube. They're running 10-volt filaments, but if you notice, that's 300 amps. And I'm not sure if that was per tube or not, but that's a lot of power just for the filaments. I think the plate voltage here was like 17,500 volts or something like that. All of this stuff, like I said, it heats the floor. It generates a lot of heat and energy. So they had some really interesting and creative ways of cooling that. This is one of the final amplifier cooling systems. It's cooled by steam. And that was something that was new to me. I guess probably because I'm running 100 wires and 100 watts in a wire. Let me see if I can read this. The plate voltage was 17,500 volts at 15 amps of plate current. So that was pretty, and the screen was 1,750 watts. Well, anyway, pretty amazing. This is I know Ruffers has got a Palomar tuner. This is one of their remote tuning units they use for a transmitter in this league. They also have activities for visitors to take part in. They've got many displays, which I won't really have time to show all of them, but I'll list them for you. But here's an example where visitors can come in and get a feel for from early radio. Here's one where you can listen to a crystal radio, and the radio station that started this all was about a mile down the road, so I'm sure they will have no trouble picking that up. They also have a CW station, a CW display for Morse code.
Hey, Ralph.
Yes.
I noticed a couple of slides ago, I couldn't help it, that you were talking about the high power. They actually had a spark gap on there. Of course, I'm thinking about my Tesla coils. There was a couple, there you go. What's up with the spark gap there?
Is that a spark gap or is that a kill stick?
No, go to the next one. No, go back.
Oh,
no, not this slide. You had another slide. No, go forward.
Go forward 2 slides.
There's a spark gap right there. Like what the heck's that about?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, that's really interesting. I hadn't noticed that. That's right down to the left of the final amplifiers indicator there.
Wow.
That's just a lightning arrestor.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Okay.
When I was at WGN radio here in Chicago, had a chance to see their, 50 kilowatt station. And they had near the base, they had a set of balls like that for high voltage discharge.
Wow. There you go. Thanks.
I didn't. Right inside there is where the final tube is. And the tubes, they got a whole display of the tubes. The tubes are almost the size of fire hydrants. And yeah, like Ralph mentioned, they actually have a boiler room, and the tubes are cooled with steam from a boiler, which is kind of blows my mind.
I didn't snap some pictures of the tubes, also of the matching line and ballon and feed line that's going out to the antenna arrays. Good reason to go back.
Ralph, what did you say the output power was?
Output power, well, it's 250,000 watts on the Collins transceiver here.
250 kV.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The original transmitters used there were manufactured by Crosby. Actually, that it was probably manufactured for him for use on his radio station, his AM broadcast radio station. That transmitter ran 500,000 watts. And the engineers at VOA were actually able to tweak that up to just slightly over 600,000. But first off, when he went to renew the license, they would not allow that power on the AM broadcast, and they dialed these things down to 250,000 watts. But they had 3 of them going, so. Okay, they have a lot of historical information and knowledgeable people to explain all about it. This was something that they were particularly proud of. This was a donation that was made to them, and this was one of the receivers that was used in the Marconi station in Nova Scotia, and that is an actual, honest to goodness, radio receiver used for transatlantic communications there. Point out the amateur radio operator 5-cent stamp there. Get back to that a little later. Again, as I mentioned, Powell Crosley and his family had an incredible influence on on this station, but also in many, many other areas of life. He was quite an inventor and innovator. And I'm sorry that I did not know more about that until I came down. But he had interest in all areas, not only in radio transmitters and receivers, but also other things of everyday inventions that he had. It's always thinking sort of like Edison, but he was doing all, but in this case, he and his engineers were doing all the work. Um, Things like kind of a precursor to a refrigerator, and all kinds of different things.
It wasn't just a precursor. Those old refrigerators with the big cylinder on top were Crosley's.
Yeah.
We had an old one in the office, and there was a Crosley automobile.
Yes, there is, and there's one on display at the museum as well. So many things. He had an early well, they called it a texting, but basically it was a way of getting news updates wirelessly. That predated almost everything else that came up there. So I'm really interested in learning more about him and his family, because again, it's something that we think of the big movers and shakers, but this guy was really bringing it. There's lots and lots and lots to see besides just the Voice of America, the radio equipment that we showed there. As I say, Crosley's WLW, which was that transmitter, the 500,000 watt transmitter, is just located about a mile away from the museum. Not running that much power anymore, but 50,000 watts. And he also operated WLWO, which was the shortwave version of that. He had a lot of because of the range of the station, a lot of performers got their start or were featured on that on his radio station, and they have a whole room. And when I say a room, I might have a picture of that later. It's a big room, giving you a little bit of that history. There's the Crosley room, which shows his inventions and his innovations, which was eye-opening to me. There's a a development of radio over the years. Glenn actually ferreted that one out. I thought we had seen everything. It was, oh no, we got another room here. There is an antique radio receiver room that has an outstanding collection of old time radios going, Atwater, Kent's, Crosley's, all of those in there in pristine condition, restored, and it's that in itself, if you're into that type of thing, is worth the trip there. They have another room which is devoted to classic amateur radio gear. So you'll see Collins radios of all flavors. R.L. Drake, being in Miamisburg, that was not too far from them, and a few others, including a Radio Shack transmitter for some reason there. But that was very, very interesting. As I mentioned, they have hands-on activities that I showed you a picture of before. They also host STEM activities, so students can come into the museum and do something electronic or related to some of the activities that the museum does. And if you're a ham, they'll even take you back into another area, which is another big room that has radio equipment for sale. It's it's pretty much something for everybody. This gets you an idea of what I call a room is. This is the WLW room, and this is only part of it. It goes way back there, and then over here about the middle, where you see these pictures and posters and photographs of performers. If you make a right-hand turn into there, you'll open up into another large area that has a display of various talent that was associated with WLW. This is a little bit of a sampler for the Crosley room. he really just like his mind just kept firing on all things. You know, what if we do this? What if we do that? Boy, we got all this spare wood. What are we going to do with this? Well, why don't we make a baby carrier out of it and stuff like that? It's quite an individual. This is some of the many radios that are shown in the antique radio room. There's an Atwater Kent and a Coronado. So that's, you know, circa mid 20s and early 30s. But the room is filled with them. Here's a Crosley from 1939, and pretty cool. So the museum, talk about the Westchester Amateur Radio Club. Their call sign is WC8VOA. They enjoy a very close relationship with the museum. It's an incredibly close relationship. They will provide maintenance and restoration of the equipment, be sure everything is tip-top shape theirs, and they also act as docents, guides for the museum. And whether you're a neophyte and just want to kind of get a high level, or if you want to really dig down into the technical details, they provide that expertise. They were very welcoming in there, and I enjoyed the time that I had chatting with some of the hams in their Radio Shack, and of course the people that were taking us around were all licensed amateurs as well, very knowledgeable. So in exchange for them doing that, the museum provides space for amateur radio activities and stations, and that is just something that I really wish that that's something to die for. To be able to have a place where you can set up a radio and have it operating all the time, having a place to store your things to sell, and having a place where you can bring in activities. And it was a beautiful partnership they have with them. They have weekly meetings that they occur on Wednesday that allow visitors and potential hams to tour the station and to get on the air and make contacts if they wish. You'll see whether it be a local scouting troop or STEM groups or anything like that. They have everything all set up, and everything is scheduled for them to be able to do that on Wednesdays. They host special activities. They have a JOTA, they operate JOTA from there. And there's a program called Youth on the Air. That was a program that was, I don't know if it was started, but it's popular in Europe. They have camps. The one that was held a number of years ago in Germany, I believe, QRP Labs provided QRP radios to have the students assemble during the week-long camp. Westchester Amateur Radio Association hosted the first U.S. Youth on the Air camp, which was very successful, and they're going to be doing that again this year. I mentioned about amateur radio. They not only have a really good relationship with the museum, but amateur radio is actively promoted in the museum. The building that they're in is 30,000 square feet, and they have, it's probably be hard pressed to not find some amateur related tidbit sign or something anywhere you have in the building. When you walk in, the first thing, or one of the first things you see as you enter the foyer is a Voice of America internet radio, because now they broadcast primarily internet and via direct FM broadcast. And but as you see here, there's talking about amateur radio, talking about the job opportunities. We're looking for you to help. They really invite people to become active and to learn more about it. And that starts there. You saw that sign that was on the one of the other displays, and you'll see that throughout the museum. It's a really great way to promote our hobby. This, I should have actually taken this back. This, when you walk into the lobby, you've got to the left of me on the first floor. That's where that radio was for the internet radio, and the reception desk was to the right. And then we go up a flight of stairs, and this is the second floor, and this is the W8 QSL clearinghouse, the incoming bureau for all cards coming into to W8 land. And again, that is space that the museum made available to the club. This is the radio station that they have. They have three stations. They have three. They have multiple stations, but three areas that you can go, and you can operate on HF, VHF, or even 10 gigahertz. They this is an area that they open up on Wednesday nights and other occasions as well. So if you would like to get on the air or watch people get on the air, you can do it. In fact, Glenn and I were chatting with them and said, "Hey, would you like to get on the air?" And of course, you announce that call, and that's going to be like all Pandemonium goes loose in here. Behind the blue door in the upper left-hand corner, they have a large monitor that they use to keep track of the weather. And on the opposite side, behind the gentleman in red, is the large room which they have tables set up for selling amateur radio equipment and components there, kind of a flea market kind of thing. Yes, Dave, that is N3FJP that they use on the logging software here. So it's really great that they have this set up to be able to just come in and use. So they're very fortunate.
Yeah, they have an EME station also. Hopefully you
Yes,
took a
they
picture of
do.
that antenna.
Yep, I got that in there. Yep,
Okay.
coming up. Yeah, they do it all. I thought John would be particularly interested in that too. Here, and this isn't really good. As you see, my ability to ward off precipitation with my rain jacket was getting dicey, but we still made it okay. But I wanted to show you here because, and you're not probably could see this very well, but if you look at just the far left of the picture, there's like 3 sets of windows, and if you look above the set that's closest to the center, you'll see a tower where they have their VHF 6 meter, 2 meter, and 440 antennas over there. This one is a look back into the field. By the way, this tower is a wooden structure, and it formed the switching center to be able to switch the different feed lines from the transmitters to the appropriate antennas. This thing is huge. Here you'll see the tri-band antenna that they have over here. There's also, I forget what that might be. That might be UHF. And they also have in the back, there is a UHF stick for their repeater that they have for the club. They have another one that is a much wider coverage, but this is for the local area. Here's another view of it to kind of give you an idea of the scale. Like I say, this is a 1 mile by 1 mile square facility. Most of it now is to park, but you know, it's something to behold. As Len said, they repurposed the dish that they used to downlink the programming from Washington, and they outfitted it for 10 gigahertz, and so this is used for their EME, and it's very successful. It's a picture of myself cursing the wind, and hopefully it wasn't going to rain here. And we have another picture with Glenn.
Yeah, that is a currently working antenna and everything. And if you're a member of the club, you can go there on Wednesdays and use it.
Right. Yeah, it's nice. It's very, very fun. Definitely recommend it if you have some spare time to take it in. It's fascinating. So again, as I mentioned before, the club was very welcoming to all the visitors. They had extended hours. I think normally the museum closes at 4 p.m. and during Hamvention, they extended the hours to 9 p.m. So that was really good. And I think speaking for Glenn too, we probably could have spent even more time going through I know I could have spent more time going through the exhibits, but the excitement of Hamvention coupled with having to get back to Dayton for our dinner kind of cut our visit short. Again, be sure to, if you're going to go there, use the GPS address. It's on the website too, so that will help. They have a weekly net. I think it's on Monday nights, and I think it's accessible via Echolink to be able to check in there. And as I mentioned earlier, they meet every Wednesday. One of the nights is the business meeting for the club, where they conduct business, and the other weeks they get together just to socialize and mentor young hams. That's another thing too. Glenn and I saw well, there was at least one young man, maybe two young men that were there that are very active in the club. So they do a really good job of recruiting and mentoring the younger hams. And of course, they open up the radio room for the people to get on the air. If you want more information about this, about Voice of America and WC8 VOA, typographical there, sorry, go to www.voamuseum.org. There's a lot of information in there, much more than I could ever hope to cover in this talk. They also have virtual tours, which will kind of whet your appetite. But again, just being there is something by itself. So I think that concludes the presentation. Do you have anyone questions or comments, or maybe add something there that I didn't cover, Glenn?
Ralph, this is David, KC9CTI.
Mm-hmm.
I found it fascinating. As a youth in the 60s and early 70s with my national NC 173 receiver, I used to sit up at night and listen to the Voice of America. So it's quite fascinating. Side note on high power transmitters, a field engineer I worked with for years at Motorola, when he got laid off, he got a job with the Navy working their extremely low frequency submarine transmitter station in Clam Lake. And he sent me a picture of him pointing at a very large analog power meter that was, the needle was pointing at 3,000 kilowatts. And their transmit frequency was 30 hertz.
Yeah, David, I visited Zavorsky up there and saw that transmitter. It was awesome is the only word, and it just was humongous.
Yeah, he talked about how one of his jobs was to periodically walk the transmission line, which was basically, it looked like wires on telephone poles running for miles, and make sure that farmers in the vicinity had not erected any new metal pole barns or barbed wire fences, because unless they were fully grounded, they could have a very high electrical potential.
Tom, W9NBG here. Do you mind putting up the slide of the filament transformer? I was copying some of the pictures, the selected ones.
Oh yeah, I'll actually, yes, I'd be happy to. I will be posting these on the reflector as well, and you'll be able to get a little more detail on that. Let's see, back here somewhere, getting close there.
Yeah, Ralph, I have some more pictures I can send you too that you can put on the website also.
Yes, we kind of divided and conquered a little bit. Ooh.
Yeah. There's me standing next to some of the tubes.
There, yes. That's why that wasn't on my phone, because I took that of you on your phone. So yeah, if you do that, I would like, I would definitely like to post these up on the reflector so that we have those.
Yeah, that was a really good time. I'm super glad that I went. I would definitely go back because, like you said, we were almost rushed through, and I would like to spend a little bit more time and take a couple of things in a little bit more. One of the things that I'd like to mention that what was really nice is the whole place is run by the Ham Radio Club, which makes for a bunch of very passionate and very knowledgeable docents. They were everyone we were handed off, from different sections to a couple of them, and they were really quick with stories, really knowledgeable, excited to, even though I'm sure we were the 50th group coming through, they were excited to tell the stories about, everything that was there each time, especially when you mentioned that you were a ham. Like Ralph said, you get to go a little bit behind the scenes, and I'll go into a little bit more detail and stuff with you. One of the things that Ralph missed was when he was talking about the power grids, is they were actually connected to several cities' power grids, so that if anything went down, they could, with the flip of a single switch, they could have the whole entire station on a different city's power grid. And the Youth on the Air camp, if you're not familiar with it, it's like a week-long summer camp for kids. It's just all about ham radio. They're building kits, they're getting on the air, they're getting their license, or I actually think they already have their license at that point. But yeah, and because they're the ones that take care of the museum, they have their clubhouse, which Ralph showed the picture of, and it's open to any club member to go there at any time, so you can go there anytime and use that big dish if you want. So really, really cool situation that they have there. I think that was all. I would definitely go back. Yep, there it is. So yeah, you can, yeah, they actually have weekly meetings. Where they go and just get on the air every Wednesday. So if you need a QSL card, Wednesday would be the day to go searching for them. I think that's all. Back to you, Ralph.
Oh, great. Thanks, Glenn. Thanks for reminding me about that as well. They also had a lot of material that you would expect to see in a museum, kind of like a backgrounder about Germany leading up to the war and into the war. And one of the things I found rather interesting was that they would, Voice of America would chase the German transmitter. So the German, well, let me just step back. Hitler's regime actually produced and required and delivered radios to all of the citizens in Germany, and they were there to tune in to get the latest news of whatever that they wanted to communicate. And Voice of America would then come up and they would move their transmitter very adjacent. They didn't jam them, they just moved them adjacent to that. And so people in Germany then found out that if they were listening to the German broadcast, that they could just slightly tune off and then and get the Voice of America broadcast, and then Germany would move their transmitters and then they would follow them around. And that got to be a very serious issue. I have a picture I didn't show here, but it actually was against the law to listen to anything else other than the German broadcast, that are punishable by death in some circumstances. So there's a lot of background information and in history that you get there as well, in addition to the technical aspects. You can say I will definitely go back when I have more time.
Yeah, I learned a lot of stuff about that I didn't know. Besides just the technical stuff, just the history of the reason behind it and how it all got started, and how Hitler had to, make sure everybody had a radio to hear his propaganda, but how that kind of backfired, because of Voice of America. So yeah, it was really interesting from a lot of different angles.